The question we must answer is, what side of Iranian history are we on? For 16 months, the president's outstretched hand to Iran's rulers has been consistently and defiantly met with a clenched fist. A fist that is now more stained than ever with the blood of Iran's sons and daughters. Yesterday, we finally shifted to sanctions. By itself, the latest Security Council resolution is inadequate. We now need Congress to finish the Iran sanctions bill so we can pass it without delay. We need the administration to impose new, targeted sanctions against those Iranian officials, businesses, and banks that promote the regime's most dangerous policies. And we need our partners in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East to do the same. But what is the goal of all this? Is it to persuade Iran's rulers to finally sit down and negotiate in good faith, to stop pursuing nuclear weapons, supporting terrorism, and abusing their own people? I truly hope this is possible, but that assumption seems totally at odds with the character of this Iranian regime. For that reason, I would suggest a different goal: to mobilize our friends and allies in like-minded countries, both in the public sphere and the private sector, to challenge the legitimacy of this Iranian regime and to support Iran's people in changing the character of their government, peacefully, politically, on their own terms, and in their own ways. Of course, the United States should never provide its support where it is unrequested and unwanted. But when young Iranian demonstrators write their banners of protest in English, when they chant, "Obama, Obama, are you with us or are you with them?" that's a pretty good indication that we can do more and should do more to support their just cause. We need to stand up for the Iranian people. We need to make their goals our goals, their interests our interests, their work our work. We need a grand national undertaking to broadcast information freely into Iran and to help Iranians access the tools to evade their government's censorship of the internet. We need to let the political prisoners in Iran's gruesome prisons know that they are not alone, that their names and their cases are known to us, and that we will hold their torturers and tormentors accountable for their crimes. We need to publicize the names of Iran's human rights abusers, and we need to make them famous. Then we need to impose crippling sanctions on them and their human rights abuses, to go after their assets, their ability to travel, and their access to the international financial system, which is exactly the goal of legislation that I and Senator Kaufman and others have proposed. It is one thing for members of Congress to lead this effort. It would be quite another thing to get that leadership in unequivocally from the president himself. The United States has never had a president whose personal story resonates as strongly overseas as President Obama's does, whose ability to inspire, to move people, to mobilize them on behalf of a democratic regime is one of the greatest untapped sources of strength now available to Iran's human rights activists. If the president were to unleash America's full moral power to support the Iranian people, if he were to make their quest for democracy the civil rights struggle of our time, it could bolster their will to endure in their struggle, and the result could be historic. My friends, if there were any doubt, the birth of the Green Movement over the past year should convince us that Iran will have a democratic future. That future may be delayed for a while, but it will not be denied. And now is the time for the United States to position ourselves squarely on the right side of Iranian history, on the side of courageous Iranian reformers like Shiva Nazar Ahari. Shiva was first arrested on September 11, 2001, at the age of 17 for the heinous act of participating in a candlelight vigil for the victims of that day of terror. After her release, she continued her human rights activism until she was detained again in the wake of last year's election. Shiva now faces the baseless charge of supporting terrorism, a charge that carries the penalty of death. Today is Shiva's birthday. She's only 26, but she's spending this day, like so many before it, unjustly detained in Iran's most notorious prison, locked in a cage so small, last we heard, that she cannot fully move her arms and legs. Shiva Nazar Ahari represents the future of Iran and all that could be best about it: its decency, its peacefulness, its commitment to dignity and justice for all. Shiva and all of Iran's prisoners of conscience must know that they are not alone in their struggle for democracy and their desire to change their government. America stands with them, as we do with all who seek a better future for Iran. The Green Movement lives on. Its struggle endures, and I am confident that eventually, maybe not tomorrow or next year or even the year after that, but eventually, Iranians will achieve the democratic changes they seek for their country. The Iranian regime may appear intimidating now, but it is rotting inside. It has only brute force and fear to sustain it, and Iranians won't be afraid forever. Thank you very much.